down here. And so this white sheet is what is going to be cut on our pieces. And so as I highlight things, I can use the arrow keys to move things over. If I want to give myself a little bit more room, maybe I want some distance up here, but I want to make sure when I highlight that I'm only getting the box that I want. Now, if I click the outside of this box, you can see there's no joints in this, so I can move these up. But if I were to select with my selection tool, you can see it selects part of that, but not the whole thing. So you got to make sure you're getting exactly what you want when you're selecting. So I'm going to come down here. Now, this piece on the side is my shelf, and there's no joints in the back side. So I'm going to click on the outside parameter. You can see it turns it purple, and I'm going to hold shift and click each of these buttons here. Or I can simply drag a selection box around here. Now, you may want to be zoomed in a little bit more because you want to make sure you're not getting part of the joint next to there. And I didn't get it, so I'm going to use my arrow tool, and I'm just giving myself a little bit of space right now. Oh, and you can see right here as I'm moving, I got that bottom one selected. So I'm going to Control Z and put that back. And then when it's back, I'm going to hold Shift and unselect it and use my arrow keys just to give myself some extra room as we're setting up these joints. Okay, as I've got everything separated, you'll notice that I got this little box right over here that was part of this joint. And I think we'll be okay on this as we're drawing out our pieces. And what I might actually do right now is I'm going to just work with one of these. So I'm going to actually delete this box here. I know that it fits on my plywood. I have it all laid out. And I'm going to take this box and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start laying out my features on here. So I want to be able to select, when I select this square here, I want to be able to select just the joint. And so that doesn't always happen when you click on it. And so what we may have to do is we may have to take the box tool right up here, draw a rectangle. You see this menu pops open. And from this menu, I don't have to click anything right now, but I'm going to click a point here on my drawing and I'm going to pull it over to the very end there. And now when I close this box and I click off here, I can see I can very easily click that and highlight that. So that's what we want to do. But before we get going too much on that, I'm going to actually do the outside edge. You can see if I click the outside edge, I'm getting this little box. I'm not getting the full outside piece. So again, I'm going to take my square tool, rectangle. I'm going to come to the upper corner and draw a box all the way down to the bottom. And this is going to now give me an outside shape. I've got that joint there. And I'm going to do one more right here on this joint. So one more and we'll be done here with drawing these boxes. And that's right here, this 1/4 inch groove. And on a longer piece, it might be hard to see all of your stuff. But you want to make sure you've got it from there. And you can see that I'm not quite in the right spot, right? My my line is only half that distance. So I can grab, I got to come down here to the middle. I'm going to grab this middle section and I'm going to pull it over to this line here. And it should snap in for me. So now, because I couldn't see it all very well, now I got that highlighted. All right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to set this up. Now that we can select each box and get it to go around the outside edges where we want, each one of those is its own little component now. Now what we're going to do is if we leave these, the router bit, as it comes in routers, it's going to leave a radius right here on the corner. So we want this bit to go a little bit past here. When we're doing this dado, we want to come a little bit past. And I can do this a couple ways. I can stretch this out with my tool. I can grab these corners and pull it out. And I could use the arrow tools and recenter it on there. That's one way. We don't want to be quite that far, but that's one way to do it. Or the other way to do that is going to be to once it's selected and it's purple, we're going to grab the rectangle tool again. And then I can make sure it's snapped to the center. That way it knows that I want it to expand both directions. And I'm going to go my width. So if I wanted to add a 1/4 inch on, and we're at 1/8 now, we're going to add on 3/8. So 0.375 would be my new adding on. So then we're coming off now 1/8 of an inch extra off each side to account for that radius. Now, 1/8 of an inch, we probably actually want to go about 1/4 inch. So we're going to change this. We're going to add another 1/4 to 5/8. And that way we have 1/4 inch hanging off each side of the project. That way when the router bit stops, it's not stopping on my project. And we get a full cut all the way through. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch groove here, and I'm going to click my rectangle tool, and I'm stuck in the middle here. My anchor point is still the middle, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a 1/2 inch onto here. So 24.5, enter. And you can see it pulls it off a little bit. Same with this one. Now I can close this box each time to make sure I get it, or you can hold shift when you click the next one. Now, if I just try to click the next one, it's going to create a new line. I don't want to do that. If I have just worked with this one, if I click out on the screen, it's going to make me a new groove that's the exact same parameters that I just set. I don't want to do that. I want to hold shift. When I click shift and then click the item I want, then it turns that one purple. And with that purple highlighted, then what we can do is we can come up here and we can add that on. That was 19.625 to give us, oh, 2 decimals in here. I need to get rid of one. And that will give us the 1/4 inch on each side. So now when I grab my pieces, I can grab the outside edge and it grabs the whole thing. I can grab my joints and you can see that they're going off the project. So this piece is set up. Now I had you delete the original one earlier because we have a right and a left. Rather than do this work twice, I'm going to just do it once, and I'm going to draw a selection box around this piece, make sure I'm only getting this piece, nothing above. And I'm going to come down here and find the mirroring option right here, mirror selected objects. And so I can choose which way I mirror it. I got to create a mirrored copy. So I want that checked. If I have that unchecked, it's just going to flip it for me. I want to actually flip it and make a copy. So I want that checked, and I'm going to flip it and make a copy. And you can see it makes a copy right on the furthest point away. So I don't really even need to move these anymore because there's already, we don't need this right in between here because this was overhang anyways. Our piece actually ends right here. And so the router has plenty of room to clear as it's cutting out our pieces to go all the way around. So that's good. We have our 2 pieces, our 2 outside pieces. If you want to separate them a little bit more right after, let's try that again, right after you mirror it. And I've got that checked. I'm going to mirror it right. You can see it's still purple. And now I can use my arrow tools. Actually, I got to hit close first, and then I can use my arrow tools and separate it a little bit if you want a little bit of breathing room between those two. We have this scrap piece over here that we're not really using at the moment. So if you want to separate those and get a little bit more space, you can. All right, let's move on to the next piece. Our next piece is going to be our middle divider. And so I want this to be able to select this and get a box. I'm not getting a box all the way around there. So what I need to do now is grab my rectangle tool again, and I'm going to click the corner all the way to the far corner and snap it. Okay, so now I have an outside box, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, and I'm going to snap right here down to here. And while I'm in here, I could tell it now that I want to make it wider. 3/8 plus a 1/2 inch is 7/8. So I'm going to move this out. I'm still snapped in the middle here, right up in the center. I'm going to move this to 14.875. And I got an extra decimal in there again. And now you can see it's pushing that out. So rather than coming back and clicking on it later, I can do it right here while I'm here now. I'm going to click and drag a new box. And I'm going to tell it 14.875, enter, and it's making those bigger. So now this piece is ready to go for us. We can select each part of this again, one outside, and then both of the joints. So now again, we're going to come over here to our side of our project. Now it gets a little bit harder to do the longer the pieces are, because then you have to be able to select one section and come to another. I'm going to start with the outside edge first. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner. Remember, this corner got moved away, and so I can't really snap to that. So I'm going to start in this upper corner where I can get a good snap, and I'm going to pull that down all the way down to that corner. And it looks to me like I didn't grab the right corner on top. This is what I mean by when you're zoomed out a little bit, it's hard to make sure you've got the right point that you're trying to get. I could zoom in a little bit. Click. Oops. I gotta hold the zoom. That's where we get into some issues. So because I can't see it all on the screen, I'm gonna grab it, start in the corner, and I'm gonna pull it just to this corner right here. It gives me the correct width. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this draw rectangle tool, and I can click on that rectangle, and now I can pull this node right here down to the bottom of the cabinet. And if I can't zoom in enough, I got to zoom in like this, let go, move in a little bit, and then zoom down and pull it right to that line. And now we've got the right length of that line. So that might be one way you need to do it in sections, where again, we pulled it a little bit, we pulled it further, and then we pulled in further even more. So now I've got that box selected. I can get the whole outside shape of my project. It's what we wanted. So now I'm going to come up here and work on this rabbit. And I'm just zooming in with my cursor here. And now what I want to do is I want to be able to use the rectangle tool, and I want to grab this corner to this corner over here. And I'm going to add a 1/2 inch onto that. So that would be 15.625. And that snaps it out. So it's going to overcut that so that the router does not leave a radius when we cut with the router bit. So I'm going to come, I don't know why we've got this extra line here. It's not a big deal. It's probably from when we were drawing in SketchUp. And I'm going to put that box there. And if you're ever wondering, did I snap to the right spot? You can check the size. We know our rabbits and dados are 3/4 of an inch. I can see that right here. It's 3/4 of an inch. So I know I've got the right width, 15.625, the right thickness of that dado. Now we have one left, and this is going to be a difficult one again because we have this small gap, a small dado right here that I have to be able to grab. So I'm going to grab it and select it and pull it down as far as I can and make sure I stay on those lines. And now I'm going to back out and zoom in a little bit. And now I'm going to close my rectangle tool, and I'm going to grab that. It's already purple, so if I click on it, I should get my moving lines. And I'm going to grab that middle node and pull it all the way down as far as I can go. If you know how big it needs to be, then you could always type that number in, but I don't know how big it needs to be. I want to just go down here and zoom in, and I'm going to go all the way to there. Whoops, a little too far, so I can come in and move that right to there. So now I've got that 1/4 inch groove lined up right. I'm going to come in here back to my rectangle tool, and this time we're dealing with a height because we're going up and down. So I'm going to make this 55 5/8, 625, and it snaps at a 1/2 inch bigger each direction. So that piece would be done then. We have all of our joints and outside parameters set so we can manipulate those and move those around. Now we're going to do this next one here. Again, I like to start with the outside shape. To me, that just keeps it easier and cleaner, that I don't have so many lines to mess with, and then I can do my pulling my dados and rabbits a little bit bigger at that time. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to select my rectangle tool. From the rectangle tool, then I'm going to click here and drag a box down to this corner. Okay. And actually, I'm going to go as far as I can see here. I'm going to let go and then zoom out and zoom back in. And I'm going to close the rectangle tool so that when I grab it, I can get the nodes, and I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to zoom out some more, zoom back in. This works good with the mouse and having a scroll pad on the mouse, scroll wheel. And I can't quite get there, so I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit more and pull it all the way down. Okay, so that one is done. Now we need to come in and do all of our joints. We've now got this one, so it's pulled all the way down. And when I highlight it, it is purple. It's hard to necessarily see the contrast, but it is there. Now what I'm going to do is come in and use that rectangle tool again from that corner down to that corner. And you remember if we let, oops, I didn't quite get it there. So I'm going to undo or Control Z. and I'm going to come back and pull it down right to there. And remember, if I'm using my rectangle tool, I can look in here and I'm going to put 15 and 625, 5/8, so it overshoots that. Now I'm going to come down here and do the same thing. I'm going to click on this node all the way across to there, and I'm going to put that at 15 and 5/8 as well. And then I'm going to come down and do this next one. And that's 15 and 5/8. And now I've got to do my little dado up here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to click right here and drag it down. Now I can't see the whole sheet, but I'm going to do half of it and I hit close. And then I'm going to zoom out and zoom back in. And now I've got those 3 nodes there. I'm going to grab the middle one and pull it straight down as far as I can. I'm going to zoom out and zoom back in so I can get that whole thing in there. And I'm going to keep pulling that down to there. Now I'm going to open up my rectangle tool again. And since that's highlighted purple, I can add that 1/2 inch on. Now we're working up and down, and that is in the Y. So I'm going to come down here to 625, enter, and it overshoots those directions. So that one looks done. And no joints up here on these 2. Those are just our shelves. So there's nothing I need to do there. So what we're doing is we're done with these pieces for now as far as laying out the boxes.